Hey, it's been a while since I've been here on YouTube, and that's because I've been completely revamping my entire garden. Let me show you what I did and why. So the first thing that I did that might shock some of you, new dog Maisie, not that, is that I got rid of my front garden fence. This was actually originally part of a horse run, and what I did is extend the garden outward this way more into my backyard. When we had the posts, I took down the electrified wires that were for the livestock and I put up just deer panel fencing instead. It very quickly became a weed trellis, and no matter what I did, I couldn't keep it in control. So it wasn't working. When something's not working, we don't get frustrated about it. We might hate it, but we got to get rid of it and we got to find a different solution. So what I did is decide, you know what? I want something that's very rustic to match the age of the house, which is 1775. I want to do a stone wall. I harvested all of these from my stream. So all of these rocks came from around here. In the garden area, I've replaced a lot of the rotting wood. And again, that's all harvested. And if not, I bought a couple of pallets to help fill those in. We'll take a look in a second. But the way that I'm gonna keep animals out of this garden space is with water motion sprinklers. And that way, one, anytime something walks in there or through there, the garden's gonna get a quick water. So this alleviates the pressure of watering for me. But then in addition to that, I've got catmint all along this border. Most animals hate catmint. Cats love it though, so there's that. So anytime I'm working on a new garden space, I start by sheet mulching. So that's just laying a whole bunch of cardboard boxes on the ground. Then on top of that, if it's a growing space, I'm gonna start piling things like sticks, logs, rotting, straw. I'm gonna do leaves, I'm gonna do soil, I'm gonna do compost. But in a pathway, I've just left it cardboard for now because I'm not sure what my topper is gonna be. I have a pea gravel in a lot of the garden, but I don't know if I'll keep that. So for now, this is just cardboard sheeting. Behind me here, I actually have this big L shape, and that's a blueberry guild. So all kinds of blueberry plants growing there. We've got a goji berry, a lot of flowers that are starting to come up. Behind me, you'll see that a lot of my beds have been replaced with stone and rock. I will show you an example over here of how I did that. So I didn't remove my beds. Things were growing in as I was replacing them. So what I do is I start lining up my rocks on the outside of the bed and I leave the wood in place, and when I'm ready to pull the wood out, I just lift it up, and then what happens is all of that dirt just falls right behind the stones. These aren't very deep raised beds. These are 10-inch boards here. So this is about a 10-inch bed, obviously. So I make sure to build the rocks up to the height that I want the bed to be before I pull that wood. One other thing that I did is consolidate a lot of my walking paths that I had and my raised beds into massive growing spaces. I'll still put stepping stones in between once I kind of get everything finished here. But you can see what I've done. You can still see some of the wood dividers that I haven't pulled yet. So this, where the potatoes are, was originally a walking path. The reason I decided to combine these into bigger growing spaces is because, one, the more paths you have, the more you have to maintain. And number two, I'd rather have more growing space than walking space. My garden currently is a very realistic look at what gardening with guineas looks like. Anytime you put down mulching straw or fresh dirt, they sense it and they come to dig it up and fluff their feathers and bathe in it. It drives me insane. So the only way that I can keep the guineas out, because I do need their wings intact so they can fly and roost in the trees at night, is by covering fresh seedlings and freshly mulched or freshly filled spaces with some sort of a covering. Another reason I decided to go for stone is that it flexes more with the seasons. So during frost heave, that's not going to be as big of an issue. With raised beds, obviously, it would be, say, something like a post, but it's going to be able to flex and bend. And now that we've been having some earthquakes here in New Jersey, I think we've had like 150 in the last couple of months. That's obviously a good thing. I also like that the stones represent the age of the house. I like that I can harvest them and get them free from my stream or around my property. And also, they're adaptable, right? If I don't like a growing space, I can easily pick it up and move those stones and reshape a bed without having to take apart an entire wooden frame. You might be familiar with the permaculture principles, and one of them is using the margins. I had a lot of weeds prior to this garden season growing up around the perimeter of the garden because I hadn't originally pushed my beds up against it. Now I am doing that. So I'm taking back that space So on this perimeter, you can see right out there is the horse sacrifice stall, and then there's just the fence. Right on this side of the bed is where the weeds used to be. Now I have dahlias and peppers growing up in that particular location. On this back side here, again, you can see the sacrifice plot on that side. I have Tuscan blue rosemary bushes. These will get 2 to 4 feet high, and they're really great for pollinators, but also the strong scent is going to repel a lot of things from wanting to come into the garden. Plus, it's edible. I treat my garden beds the exact same way that I treat the perimeter of my garden. Things that are strongly scented and attract pollinators and repel a lot of unwanted things go on the outside. That includes garlic, onion, shallot, fennel, different herbs. All of those things are going to go on the outside because they're going to invite pollinators into that bed. They're going to explore further. That's going to increase your yields, right? It is a host to predatory insects and a lot of butterflies. Fennel here is a great host plant for swallowtails. But then also it's going to keep unwanted things out, which is good. One other thing I incorporated more of in the garden this season is comfrey. Comfrey is an amazing chop and drop mulcher for your garden. So I planted it throughout the space so I can simply chop it and lay it on top of the beds, just like you would with straw or any other type of mulch. Now this here is Russian comfrey. It is sterile. It does not spread. So it's a nice ornamental upright bush. On the other side of this, I've got some peas coming up. That's what the trellis is for. It doesn't need to be trellised. So behind me here, again, this is the portion of the horse run that I've now integrated into part of the garden to extend it. This is what the blueberry patch looked like. It's just weeds. And so what I'm doing is beginning to collect cardboard boxes, sheet mulching this. This is going to be my little raspberry area. So this is very much a work in progress. This is realistic, okay? This is what this section looked like. So you can see this is all planted. I hate doing this backwards. And then we have the pathway, and that's the blueberry guild. Okay, so this is what it looked like before. I'm incorporating more flowers, and also in this new garden space, actually bringing in mini dwarf, which I didn't know was a thing, fruiting trees. Perennials, we know in permaculture that they invite birds, they invite wildlife, they invite beneficial insects, and they give them a place not only to stay for the season, but also to overwinter. So in addition to my aronia berries and my blueberries that I have in the garden, and my loganberries and sunchokes, I now have mini dwarf apple trees. I have fig. These things are growing in and amongst the flowers and the other vegetables. So this garden is not solely dependent on the annuals. I have heavily integrated a lot of perennials as well. I will absolutely keep you posted on the garden progress as we go here. I think this is going to be a great season. I think it's a little underwhelming at the moment since we're in the early stages of the growing season here, but I promise to keep you updated, so I hope you'll stick around.